Welcome, everybody. We are here with another episode, another great show. I want to thank you guys for all joining in today and taking the time to come and check out what I got for you lined up this show. And I think you guys are really going to like it. I have an amazing guest on this evening or day or whatever it is. I mean, time zones mess me up, guys. So, I mean, wherever it is where you guys are, for me, it's almost evening. So, I'm going to say a great guest this evening. And somebody I've had on my radio show on Revolution Radio. We've had a great discussion there, and I've been on his YouTube show. So I mean, it's a great guest, and somebody I learned a lot from. Has great presentations. I saw his first presentation that I ever saw that he did was on the Funnel Conference, which is Freedom Under Natural Law. I'll make sure I leave a link in the description for you guys. And it was a great presentation that he did, The Ultimate Connection, Divine Creative Energy. And it was a really cool presentation. I learned a lot from, so I suggest you guys definitely check that out. And I check his YouTube channel out. So, I mean, a great person to go to if you want to start looking into the things that we discuss here, which is natural law and objective morality and freedom and all of those things that I really enjoy talking about and learning and teaching. So I wanted to get him on the show today just to, introduce you guys to him. I wanted to get him actually on a video interview. Like I said, I've only ever had him on my radio show. So I wanted to get him here for you guys to meet and have a discussion with. And we're going to have a great topic today. We're going to be talking about evil and what it means and what it means to people. So I thought it would be a great topic because I have been asking people to give me their definition of evil. And I was saying that to my guest before, we were went and did this shot this video, and I was telling him I get so many different descriptions when I ask people that question. Just give me your definition of evil, and it's all over the map. So I know this is a topic that he loves to talk about and covers greatly. So I figured let's go ahead and get him on the show here, and I'm going to go ahead and introduce you guys to him. Welcome, Chris Jantzen. I'm so happy to have you here, and thank you for taking the time to come and chat with us.
Glad to be here. Thanks so much, Rick, for having me back.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'm happy that we got a video interview, actually, because when we did it on Revolution Radio, and obviously it's not video, so I knew I had to get you on my YouTube channel to discuss stuff. So thank you so much. I know you're busy, and I'm so appreciative that you take the time to come and chat with me and everybody that's listening. So why don't you let everybody to start with, Chris, just let everybody know a little bit about yourself, and we'll go from there.
Right on. Yeah, I mean, I think it's good, dude. I like getting on there and showing my face and my smile so people can know, this is a real guy, because I think back to when I first started going down the road of watching other people's presentations and conversations online and podcasts. It really helped me to kind of get to know the people a little more before I could really trust what they're saying. There's an aspect of trust that's involved when you listen to people and take in information, and you don't want to take information from people that you don't trust. So right. I think it's good to get to know people, and you can get to know me real well by checking out my work on endevil.life. I have over a year's worth of solid presentations of conversations I've had with people like yourself. Mm-hmm. It's all about natural law, and the concept that I started my podcast was based on a book, The End of All Evil by Jeremy Locke. Great book. I discovered that book through the What on Earth is Happening podcast. I got their Mark shirt on today. Mark Passio's work made an incredible impression on me.
Me too.
But there's been, many other presenters over the years that have also, made a big impression on me and helped me on my road to discovery and trying to figure out what's going on in the world around us. But as far as defining evil, that's one of my favorite topics. So I'm glad you asked me on to talk about that today.
Oh yeah, I remember because I was talking to you, and I've watched a lot of your stuff on YouTube. I really enjoy the interviews you're doing, and as I said at the beginning, your presentation that I saw for the Funnel Conference was amazing too. And I agree with you too. I've learned so much from Mark Passio. I've watched all his presentations numerous times, listened to his podcast, and now I'm definitely going and checking out on the One Great Network, going and checking out all the other creators that are on there. And there's I think you guys got 59 now or something like that. There's a lot of great creators on there talking about a lot of great topics. And So when I was talking to you, we were talking about evil, and I thought I'm going to go around and ask people just to give me their definition of evil. Like, I just, tell me what you think evil is. And I was really surprised, Chris, how their answers varied. Like, it was really, I thought that maybe they'd be along the same lines, but their answers varied very greatly. So I wanted to talk to you and get you on the show for you to break down what you think evil is and kind of let, tell people about it.
I'm curious what some of the answers people give you are.
Well, one person was saying that evil to them is basically like hatred. Like they were saying what evil is to them is hate. And then I've had another person, when I asked them what hate was, they immediately kind of went to the Bible version. Like they were kind of like hate is the devil, and um, kind of like that's kind of how that discussion went to. Like when I was like, can you just describe what evil is? And they just kept saying it's the devil, and you're if you're mean to people and stuff like that, that's evil. If you hurt people, that's evil. Kind of like that is what I get a lot of when I've asked the people is like, you just if you're hurting people, you're doing evil. And I was like, wow. So I mean, I just it was kind of an interesting little thing I did asking people.
Yeah, it's another good question that I've always asked people since I was very young
Mm-hmm.
is I remember doing this with you is like, what's the most important thing in life?
Yeah.
And what's amazing is it's kind of similar how different answers you'll get from people. And to me, that sort of highlights the problem that we face in the world is that so many of us people are really confused about something that should be the most basic and prime aspect of our thinking, our philosophy,
Right.
you know. And one thing I've discovered in my life is that I'm a philosopher, and it was kind of like, oh yeah, I guess so. What does philosophy mean, And that's an important question too. Besides, what does evil mean? But I think it's really important with words to define what we mean because part of why I was curious to hear what people said is because I, for instance, grew up in Christian church,
Me
and
too.
if you grow up in the Christian church, your concept of what evil means is very much within that context.
Yep.
And even if you've, later in life chosen to not stick with that religion, the definition in your brain is still very much um, in the context of the way you learned it,
Yes.
the word. So, what I try to do in my presentations and the work I'm doing is in the beginning show people what I'm talking about when I use the word evil, because I think people are using the word to mean something different than what I mean. And so what I've come to is I really liked the book, The End of All Evil, because of the way Jeremy Locke explains it in there. And he says evil is the destruction of freedom. And I've chosen that as being the tagline for my show because to me, that's one of the best descriptions I've heard of what evil is. And so many of these concepts, it's difficult to describe what something is when it's a concept or a principle because there's so much to it
Right.
and the world is so confused. And so all the other words we use will add a different context or contrast depending on our history or our upbringing. But if we start out by defining things, that's kind of a trivium style of learning or teaching where we define the grammar or the definition of a word. So what I mean by evil is, for one thing, it's almost easier to say what I don't mean. What I don't mean is a devil horns religious concept of
Right.
an entity. What I don't mean is a bunch of people dying because of a volcano or a lion attacking them in the wilderness. That's
Yep.
not evil by my definition. Those are not evil. What I don't mean is ghosts and ghouls and drawing a star on doing a chant. That's not what I'm talking about. Is
Right.
evil. I'm talking about evil is a human to human um, type of stealing. Is another way to
Right.
put it, which is a wrongdoing. And I always liked Mark's definition because it's just so simple of what's right. What does the word right even mean? Let's start with the very definition of
I've
right.
asked people that too, Chris. I've asked people to
Well, what does it
define a
mean?
right, and they can't do it. I'm
Well, I
serious.
mean, it's so simple when you think about just the basic definition of wrong is just not right, and right is not wrong.
Yep.
So right is basically just not wrong. And so what is a wrong when we're talking about a human to human interaction? Well, it's wrong to steal from somebody.
Yep.
And that, we don't need a book, any book, before books existed, humans were figuring that aspect out. What happens if you steal the other person's food or steal the other person's family's food? Well, there's going to be some negative consequences. You might fill your belly for a quick meal, but now you got issues with that other family or that
Right.
other tribe or community, or whoever you stole it from. And so I don't mean like a bear stealing food from a penguin or eating a penguin. That's not what I'm talking about. That's not evil. I'm talking about human to human stealing. And that's really a simplest way we can explain evil. And then we can use that term to actually mean something that's tangible that we can actually do something about. And so what I mean by end evil is don't steal,
Yeah, exactly.
essentially. And that's really not something that we can't do. It's something we can do. We just go about living as humans, but we just don't steal from one another,
Yep.
you know?
Yep.
And as simple as that sounds, even stealing itself is not well understood. What does stealing mean? To take something without somebody's permission, right? To basically rob somebody of the choice to give you, the opportunity, to do
Yes.
something the correct way, to ask permission. Would you be willing to donate some money to the organization we're forming to take care of the neighborhood and the streets and security around here? Oh, sure, I'd be happy to donate to that because I trust you people, as opposed to you going to give us about 1/3 of all your money, or we're going to lock you in a prison at the point of a gun, or
Yep.
shoot you, or rob you continually for the rest of your life, whether you like it or not, which is taxes, which people think is good. They think it's a mighty fine thing to have, and if without taxes, we wouldn't have the streets. But they're leaving out the fact that that involves coercion and stealing,
Right.
and it's just downright stealing when you really think about what the word means. And you don't need a dictionary to define that, really. You barely need words to understand this concept.
For sure. Yeah, and
So
another.
it's really simple,
Yeah.
But I didn't get it
Yes.
till I was in my like 40 years old. So I try not to hate on people that don't get it yet. I'm trying to explain it in a kind way without being rude, you know.
Oh, for
That's
sure.
what the word means, It's simple.
Yeah, it really is. And now that I'm thinking back to somebody else that when I was asking them about what evil was, I know the one person I talked to automatically went to the occult, like anything that has to do with the occult. And then we had a discussion. I'm like, you really don't know what the word occult means if you're describing evil as the occult. And so they, as soon as I think like, well, I know what they thought occult was what you see in Hollywood, right? Like you see devils and chanting and all, like you were saying, and black masses and all that, like all of that. That's what they
It's
identified
an
a cult with.
association, a
Yes.
context, right?
Yeah. And I was like, no, that's not what a cult means. So I had to break down what a cult really meant and stuff like
So
that.
so they got their education through the Disney Channel or Disney movies,
Yep.
basically,
Hollywood. Yep.
because that's basically where that kind of thinking comes from.
Yep.
Religions is the other place people get some of that thinking from, and some of the goofier religions really, they really get crazy with embellishing, the story of this bad guy, right?
I know mine
Basically.
did. I know my school did it. Like that's what's kind of I really enjoy chatting with you because our stories are kind of similar in a lot of ways. They kind of line up how you went to you were involved with the Christian schooling system and stuff like that, and I was too. And I had a rough go with that, as I've told in my podcast a few times. Like I was always in trouble for asking questions to the priest, and they didn't like that, and they really were hard on the whole. If you do not follow these rules and you're not following God and all of that, you're gonna go to hell and the devil and evil. That they're really hard on that, so they really indoctrinate people to that very early in life. At least in my
And
case, they did.
the thing is that what I've come to recognize is a lot of those people that are involved in that process that you're describing, the indoctrination process,
Mm-hmm.
what they're really doing is indoctrinating you into the culture of authoritarianism and preparing you for stateism and military. And they don't even realize they're doing that. They're not consciously saying to themselves, oh, I need to train the citizen.
Mm-hmm.
But they are. What they're doing is they're part of a citizen training program, and they're unwittingly part of it. They don't even recognize the structure of their own activities, where think about all these schools and religions are constantly getting people to get in rows and aisles and stand in lines and to wear certain costumes and to accept the idea that someone who's standing on a pedestal, right?
Mm-hmm.
At some sort of altar that has some sort of authority, and that we should look to them as a conduit to get to our own spiritual self.
Yep.
When, those of us that awaken to some extent recognize that that can only come from within. And if they're not telling you that, then what they're doing is trying to build up the system of authority, which is the opposite of freedom. It's the destruction of freedom.
Right.
So they're actually, in many cases, in religions, unwittingly preaching evil, because they're preaching that you should pay your taxes and that you should conform to systems and that you should stand in rows and lines and that you should respect people who are in positions of authority because they're wearing a certain costume or a robe,
Yep.
and that's across the board in all of these institutions that people have faith in, and that's where they're off. Like you look at the Merriam-Webster. Okay, I'm looking at Merriam-Webster. It says the definition of evil: morally reprehensible, sinful, or wicked. That's the first definition from Merriam-Webster. That's a very, kind of a coming from a religious point of view.
Yeah.
If you think about
Right.
it,
Yep.
wicked, based on whose opinion? What does that mean? It's not really giving you a good definition. Its second says arising from actual or imputed bad character or conduct. Now, that makes a little more sense. A person of evil reputation, a person that does bad things.
Yep.
When they define it as a noun, their first one says the fact of suffering, misfortune, or wrongdoing. Now, that's pretty close to what I'm saying.
That's pretty close.
But anything that's wrong, right?
Yep.
A cosmic evil force, though, is their next one. So it's like, even if you look it up in a mainstream modern dictionary, the answer you're going to get for the definition, I might not necessarily agree with the way they're going with that, right? Mm-hmm. So we have to define our terms when we're having these conversations with people and recognize that people are coming from very different places. Right. Now that doesn't mean that there's no truth, in the world, and we can't discover a common ground. We surely can, but it takes a little bit of time and patience sometimes to hash that out with somebody. What are we really talking about here? Mm-hmm. And a lot of that has to do with what is our exposure to these words and how they're used. I never even heard of the term natural law until I was close to 40 years old. I never heard anybody put those words together in that way to mean what I understand natural law to mean. So, I mean, a lot of people never are going to get that, Yeah. They might even understand the concept, but they've never had anybody define it and put those words to it.
That's how I was too. I never heard like natural law. And I've told you that when we were talking on the radio show, that I never actually heard that term either. I kind of tried to live my life under those rules, but I think I kind of looked at it as karmic law. Is kind of like, I guess, how I made it, like I thought of it in my mind, was like karmic law. Like don't harm others. And I'm was always very aware of the non-aggression principle. That was something my mom taught me, and my dad very early. I remember, like when I was very young, that you don't bring harm to other people, right? But if they bring it to you, you have every right to defend yourself. That was one thing they always told me, and so I get what you're saying. Like I get what you're saying 100%.
I think in one of my slides I created, it was like it had a picture of like this demon kind of thing I got off the internet. If you look up devil, right, you get this red skinned character Pitchfork with horns, and then on the other side I had a picture of Jesus, right, the typical picture of Jesus, the long-haired white guy who looks all peaceful and calm, with the blue eyes, right? And I'm like, okay, if this is what you're thinking about good and evil, that's not what I'm talking about, right. Okay. Yeah. If those are the words you're using to mean these two pictures, that's not what I'm talking about,
Yes.
And that might be your definition. You go ahead and stick with that. But when I'm using the word evil, I'm talking about stealing, basically. I'm talking about, like you're saying, moral, simple law, the golden rule. You don't need a book to understand the concept of the golden rule. You treat others as you would like to be treated, because this is like the most normal thing that happens on a day-to-day basis, and every little transaction we do with other humans around us is we're forced to understand that, if you want to get what you want, even if you're looking at it from a very selfish point of view, there's some sort of compensation that other people require in order to make trades, and there's a certain respect that has to happen. And even in jail, I heard a recent really cool little talk by Larkin Rose. I don't know if you've ever listened to Larkin Rose. He's an excellent speaker on people understanding freedom and understanding anarchy and authoritarianism.
For sure.
And he was describing going to federal prison and noticing how organized the prisoners were with their, monetary system and their system of, layers of respect, and it just goes to show that even what you might construe as the worst people, they still built a system of bartering and respect, and they
Yeah.
don't need any king to come in and show them how to do that. It happens. It's a natural thing. Humans can self-organize. We don't need an outside force to put its boot on our neck and tell us how to organize. It's just a natural thing we do. Otherwise, we wouldn't be alive after all these generations on this, on this tough planet that has so many dangers.
I
We've
agree.
survived all that. And the only way we survive is by working together.
Yeah, that's what I try to tell people too. But they really, I have to give the social engineers all the credit, Chris, because they have really got people brainwashed to believe that to make the world work, they need government, they need authority. They like, when you start talking about eliminating government and organized religion, when I talk to people that about this topic, then they automatically go to, well, if we didn't have any of that, the world would be in chaos. They immediately go to that, and it's like,
Oh
no.
man, I've been through that conversation so many
Me too.
times.
Me too.
You originally found me in that conversation I had with Leslie Powers
Yes,
that was called The Fish Tank. And I love that analogy.
that's a
There's a
great. Yeah,
movie,
that's
a
a great
kids
one.
movie, right? Called Finding Nemo. And I think that movie has the best allegory to help understand this concept that, okay, imagine the fish inside of the fish tank in Finding Nemo. When they bring Nemo in, he's a fish that was from the ocean, the
Yep.
wild big ocean, right? And all of a sudden he's in this fish tank, and he's in there with these other fish that have never been in the ocean. They were born in captivity,
Have
right?
no idea there's
And
even an
so
ocean.
he's describing to them the ocean, and
Yep.
they're like, if it wasn't for the seagull coming up and telling them stories about the ocean, as far as they're concerned, it might not even be a real thing. It might be just a picture on the wall like the other pictures.
Yep.
And so it's kind of like that. We're trying to describe anarchy. We're trying to describe a world where we don't cheat and steal from one another. And people are like, that's not possible because they were born in the fish tank, and they don't really have quite the ability to imagine how things could be without the fish tank because they've never had any hint of that reality.
Right.
And we're just like this bird on the windowsill kind of saying, look, there is a real ocean over there. It could be where we're living.
Mm-hmm.
And they're saying, there's no way to get from here to there. And then when you do try to imagine it, people automatically imagine chaos would ensue, right?
That's
If
big.
we just,
Yeah.
because what they're imagining is overnight, all of a sudden all rules go away, all the structures just disappear overnight, which is like inconceivable. Even if it ever did happen, that's not how it's going to happen. And then the next day, yeah, all hell's going to break loose. I guarantee
I
it.
get. Yeah. I just.
It's
Yep.
like if you live your whole life on a crutch and then one day you just remove the crutch, whoop,
You're gonna.
you
Yep.
fall over,
Yep.
right? Yeah, like they get that. People get that, and I understand why they feel like that because we've lived our whole life in the fish tank, and it's pretty hard to imagine waters that aren't polluted when all our waters we've ever lived in are polluted with evil. You
For
know.
sure. Yeah, and I'm glad that you said that you have that conversation with people a lot too, because that's exactly where it goes to every time I start talking about natural law and all of these topics that we're covering. It goes right to then you want chaos, and I'm just like, then it's quickly how it's really surprising how quickly they jump to that, and I'm just like, wow, like, and so you're right, like, and that was a great of interview like I saw with you and Leslie talking about the fish tank. I'm glad you brought that up, and I'm going to put a link to that in the description, guys, because I want you guys to check it out. It's really, that's what got me talking to Chris. It was really interesting, and I found it really helpful the way you guys talked about it. And Leslie does a great job too,
Yeah,
describing it.
she recently just got loaded onto the One Great Work Network too, so people can check her out there too. She's really getting going on her work now too, which is exciting.
Yes, for sure. Yeah, I've done a couple interviews with her too. I'm meeting so many great people, such as yourself and
Yeah,
Leslie,
and Will
Will.
Keller and
Yeah,
Brandon Spencer. I had a recent good talk with him too. He's a great guy.
that was a great, yes, that was a great interview that you did with him, the most recent one. And so I'm going to leave links to the for all of these for everybody's YouTube channel, I should say, and their websites in the description for everybody, so they can check it out. And I strongly hope that people do, and I suggest that you guys do go check it out and check out the One Great Network and
One Great Work Network.
One Great Work Network. See, I always mess it up. I told you
I've
that,
done
Chris.
the same thing. I did the same. It's a little tricky. It's a little bit of a tongue twister.
It
but
is.
hey, maybe that'll help people remember.
It
The
might
One
be yeah,
Great Work Network.
the One Great Work Network. Oh, okay,
Yep.
there we go. I
.com.
got it. I got it. So we're definitely talking about evil, Will, and then well, not Will. I sorry, I got Will on the brain now. Chris, I apologize. I mean, I know I'm thinking so many.
Hey, we're birds of the same feather. You
It's
know, you
true.
could switch us out. We'll pretty much say the same thing. That's one thing I love about Will. He's so consistent with the messaging and the way he
Yes,
explains things. I think he's really he's really good with words, and he's really good at keeping a lot of information in his brain. Where I'm kind of more like rough, rough sawn. You
me
know,
too.
You know, I spent my life as a carpenter, construction guy. I had no intention of being a guy making videos online. I really don't like social media. I struggle with getting on social media, but I know that that's where people are at, and I know that those people really more than anyone need to hear the message about the things we're talking about.
Right.
So I'm doing what I can, but I mean, I'll say I could use anybody's help
Me too.
on spreading the message on social media because it's a really difficult struggle for me to do that.
Me too. Yeah, and I feel the same way. I do struggle with a lot of it, and I'm very new to it. I make that very clear to people that I am new to it, and but I'm finding my way through it. I'm figuring it all out. I mean, when I think back where I was less than a year ago, without a computer or anything, I've done leaps and bounds, and so I mean, at least we started, right? That's you got to start the journey, and I'm learning as I go. I'm meeting a lot of great people, and that's a great thing that you brought up, though, Chris. Is you said that you were a carpenter and you didn't plan on doing this type of work. What made you want to start doing this and doing videos and spreading the message and of the great work and stuff? What made you take that path?
You know, it's a combination of things like everything. You know, we all kind of like have our own like specific life path of weird little things and events and traumas and our parents and how it makes us and shapes us. But I guess my favorite points in my story kind of starts with this point at which I got an iPad, and this was in like I think it was 2011, somewhere right around then when I got the iPad, and it was the first time that I really had the internet available right at my fingertips. I mean, I'd had computers before that, but we pretty much used them for really writing resumes and stuff like
It's
that.
true.
You know,
Yep.
we didn't used to go on the internet, and so now I had this iPad. It was the number two. It was iPad number two, sitting on my lap every evening and playing stupid little games. And all of a sudden, I start asking myself, I'm like, wow, you know, this is like having a crystal ball, you know.
Yep.
And I go, you could ask the crystal ball any question, and it'll give you an answer. And so I was like, what is my big question, you know? And I thought about it for like a day or two, and I was like, you know what still bugs me? Like, what the hell happened on September 11th?
Yep.
You know, what those buildings falling down and blowing up the way they did, and them saying they collapsed, it just didn't make sense. You know,
Mm-hmm.
from the day I saw it, I
Me
just
too.
what? No, that's not how things work. That's some kind of inside job. You know, I remember saying it on the phone to my best friend the day it happened. This all looks like some kind of inside job, dude. You know, this is like some kind of secret CIA trickery or something. This can't be, you know, and I didn't know about conspiracy theories back then, really. I didn't know about false flag. I didn't know about any of those terms, you know?
Right.
So this was like 10 years later before I really started. I was like, you'd think some people would have been complaining by now, you know?
Yep.
That was a lot of people that died, you know? You'd think they'd be like pulling the presidents out of the hallways by their heels and putting them on a stakes by now for, you know, because there was something going on there, right? So I started digging in and looking at all these websites, and sure enough, I found the architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth, and I found Richard Gage, and started digging into that, and that led to the next thing, which was weather engineering. And I started looking at the sky a lot, and I'm like, what is going on with these clouds that never go away and these so-called contrails, you know? And
Yep.
I'm looking into that subject, and that was what really kind of blew things open for me and warped my reality, because I started noticing that whatever the truth was on the subject of weather engineering, people had not researched it enough, and they weren't willing to have the conversation or look into the details.
Yep.
When I started, because it was really affecting me, I really started thinking about it. And during that period of time, I was having some health problems, and it was a possible cause from my mind, you know,
Mhm.
at that point of view. I'll never be able to prove whether it was or not, but it was a concern of mine, and I wanted to talk to people about it. And I happened to be at that time working in a government job as a maintenance man at a superior court. And so I was able to talk to a lot of people about it. I talked to judges about it. I talked to a judge that was a pilot in the military at a high level, a general, about it, you know?
Wow.
I pushed the issue with everybody I could, and everybody I could think of was super dismissive. And it wasn't that I was coming across like a crazy person because I was mostly asking questions and looking up things on the internet and saying, what about this? What about this? What about what I'm seeing right here? What about this picture I took? What
Yeah.
about this video I took? And this one video I have, it shows two airplanes flying along, leaving the same trail, and this one cuts out and the other one keeps going. And then this one comes back on, you know?
Yep.
And they're like flying at the same altitude, and it's like, how do you explain that? It's stuff like that. I started coming across more and more stuff like that. And it just kind of just made me realize that whatever's going on, things like September 11th, things like that, things like the when you start looking into like the world financial situation and
Right.
Federal Reserve and how the Federal Reserve came about and these interlinking stories of these family lines and these genealogies that have owned positions of authority, all through time. And you realize that no, there is a huge conspiracy and it is pretty unified. It's like there is a central, you know, force of evil in this world,
Yep.
or that has been kind of clustered. I mean, I don't know the super details of it. I can't. People always want to know, well, who is it then? Why don't we just track them down and kill them? Problem solved.
Yep. Yep.
It's like it's not that simple because we're all implicated. There. I don't know who the exact people are. Like I know some of the names and families, and I know a lot of books where you can find out a lot of details about this people, and you can really. I spent years ever since then, 2011 until now, doing a lot of that research. And I get to the point where I realized when I really hit Mark Passio's work was about the time when I really got through all his podcasts. That took me quite a while. And I started realizing this is a spiritual problem. You know, the,
100%.
the, the problem is that people aren't ready to ask the right questions. It's not that that answers aren't accessible. We have more information available to us in this time than ever in history.
Yep.
All the books that have ever been written are available and you can access them. All the information is out there. You just have to have the discernment and the patience to work through that. And I'm not the best at that. I meet people that are much better researchers. And
Yes, me too.
Richard Grove, he's someone that blows me away. He keeps like all this knowledge in his brain and all these books, and he can quickly just pull this stuff out. You could check out his work on Grand Theft World. Great. He's really great at that. He can help you track down who these people are.
Yep.
People researchers like him really have done a lot of that work. But to me, what it keeps coming back to is philosophy. It's like we're never going to fix these problems by just catching the head guy and shooting him like the movies. It just doesn't work like that.
Yep.
So that's what brought me back to my roots of being a philosopher. And eventually it's just getting totally frustrated with all these details and trying to explain to people things they don't want to hear and banging my head against the wall. I realize I need to relook at this problem. And when I come back and relook at it over and over with fresh eyes and meditate and go on my own little camping retreats and do all the things I've done
Mm-hmm.
over the years to try to make myself the person I want to be, who's in line, more in line with freedom and more in line with natural law and more in line with my principles. I still got ways to go. I started recognizing that it's a spiritual war that we're in. And it doesn't matter who's at the top of the chain. It doesn't matter how you want to believe their structure works. What matters is that we stop stealing from one another and we start understanding what good is and what evil is, and if we do that, if we can teach each other that, all those other problems will be solved and resolved within time. And
Yes.
it's not going to be an easy process, but that's what needs to happen,
Yep. And that's what I've been trying to tell people too, because I talk to a lot of people, and I've mentioned it to you too before that I've talked to a lot of people that were part of the rallies and the convoys that we saw going on, and they're always saying that we do, people are always doing these rallies and nothing ever changes. And I try to tell them like that's because you're attacking the wrong aspect of it. You're trying to attack it from the plane of effect kind of thing, where it's not, this isn't how we're going to fix these problems. It's not voting somebody in, it's not getting rid of a certain leader, it's none of those things. This is a spiritual war. And I think a lot of people, as soon as you say, I find at least with the people I talk to, as soon as I bring up spiritual war, they automatically go, at least for the people that I talk to, it automatically goes to like the Christian whole thing. That's when they hear spiritual, that's what they go to, like, and they'll say, well, I'm not into the Bible and stuff like that. So that's kind of, I can only talk from my experience. And when I talk to people and they hear spiritual, that's where they kind of go with it. They're like, well, they think the Bible is spiritual of it. And I'm just wondering if you can kind of
Yeah,
maybe
that's like
define that.
no, that's a good point because it's like we talked about like with the word occult where people think that means, witchcraft and it means hidden.
Yep.
It's the same thing. Spirituality. When I use that word, I do not mean drinking, getting the holy water on you. I don't mean wearing certain clothes on a certain day of the week or eating a certain food, and only as it relates to right and wrong, as I described before. That's
Right.
spirituality. Is getting inside of yourself, knowing thyself. The most ancient wisdom of all wisdom is know thyself, right? You
Yeah.
know, and that's what I mean by spirituality. It means, and here's a new way I've thought of to describe it: rising above the animal instinct and animal reaction. You know, most people are okay with living at a level that's actually kind of worse than animals. What we're accepting as human behavior is worse than animals.
Yeah.
Animals do not kill a whole other type of animal. Like the lions do not kill all of the cheetahs. Like they or all the gazelles. They kill one sickly one so they can get through the next couple days, and then they chill until they're hungry again.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
That and I'm not saying we should do what the animals do. I'm saying we're beings that are here with superior capabilities, that we're here to be caretakers of the earth and caretakers of the animals. I think, and I'm not going to declare that as a religion, but I'm going to say when you do your inner work and you're calm and you meditate and you spend time in nature, you'll recognize that that is the case. You
Yes.
know, look at any culture of people that have stayed close to the land and have had, you know, family traditions and community traditions of working together. They understand that they're caretakers of the land,
Right.
and that we can rise above that fight or flight instinct kind of reptilian brain level of activity, and we can create and build and come up with ideas and inspire one another and dance and sing, and we can make things better than they are. We have this credible ability, and that's also a responsibility
For
because
sure.
we have the ability to respond.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
And when
I guess
you look at the way the world is now, you can definitely see that we have not been very good caretakers of this planet by any stretch of the word. I mean, we just haven't been, and so I mean, I really think that people need to get back to that and start doing the work on themselves, and then also realizing that we're here, that and I agree that we're here to when you take care of the planet and stuff like that. I get what you're saying, 100%.
I'm listening to a book right now, and see, I think that's part of the work. Like you have to keep on working on yourself. You never
Yeah,
got it.
daily.
It's like an
Yep.
ongoing process. So I'm always like getting into a new book or checking into a new thing. And I got this book I'm listening to right now that's all about people that have had near death experiences. And what people are describing is looking back on their life and seeing all these little moments when they did something wrong and seeing it from the other point of view, or looking at a little moment when they did something really nice for something and how much the whole universe appreciated a
Hmm.
kind deed.
Hmm.
And it's like giving me more of a reminder that like every moment is precious. This gift of life we have is it's an incredible gift of opportunity, but it's also a responsibility.
Yep.
Like you affect everything around you. There's nothing um there's nothing you do that doesn't affect everything and everyone else around you. So it does matter
It
what
does
you do
matter.
and don't do. That's what it comes down to.
For sure. And one of your interviews, I do liked what you said. I remember you saying that evil is the destruction of creativity. Do you ever? I remember hearing you say that, and
Yeah.
that's so. That was very powerful to me when you said that. It really was like for some reason it really resonated with me for how to describe evil, because when I look at evil, that's exactly what it's doing, is destroying creativity. And I mean, can you kind of talk about that a little bit? Because I found that very powerful when you were discussing that in the interview that I was watching.
Yeah, like I've thought a lot about what is good, you know? The antithesis, right? Like what is good? And in a way I want to say good is God. Like it's
Yep.
almost the same word. But again, there's a word we have to be cautious with, because if we say God, a lot of people are imagining,
The, the
this
guy with the
white
white beard.
illuminated character up here in the cloud who can strike you down, and that's not what I'm talking about.
Right.
That's like an anthropomorphized imaginary way of seeing things. It's storytelling from my point of view. What I mean is look at what we actually see going on. And that's why I have the tree behind me. Look at the tree, a tree where it starts with the tiny little seed, and it grows into this incredible thing, right? The whole process is a process of growth.
Mm-hmm.
It's like growing into a new thing. Even when it dies and it loses leaves, those leaves go on the, forest floor, and they become like a compost that provides the perfect situation for a new seed to grow.
Yep.
So every aspect of the process is a changing, growing process. It's a creative process, and we as humans have the ability to kind of align with that process and go along with it and learn from it, go with the flow of that. Or you go against it and you say, no, I'm going to cut all these limbs off and I'm going to make the tree the way I want it. I'm going to rehybridize the tree and make it grow the way I want it to grow, and we're always trying to force, nature to do things we want to do it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when it starts to get more and more into that category of evil, when we're trying to impose our will and tell nature how we want it to be instead of learning from what it's trying to teach us,
Right.
and so, like, when you look at what good is, it is the process of growing around things.
Mm-hmm.
And if it wasn't for that, all existence would come to an end, like,
Yep.
but that's not what reality is. Reality is this ever amazing growing thing where you could pave the whole area of nature with concrete, and then you leave for a while and nature's just going to grow through it. It's going to break through the concrete, and the water's going to come, and you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, there is some destruction in that process too, don't get me wrong, but it's all a creative energy. The very energy, the divine energy, I like to call it, is a creative energy.
Right. Yeah.
And when you do like art or something, you kind of get in touch with it for a minute. You feel that inspired feeling.
I do.
Your
Yes.
hairs raise up, or the same thing when you have incredible illuminated thoughts or synchronicities in life. That's when you kind of touch into that divine creative energy.
Right. And I've always said that that's the reason that they keep humanity in the state of fear that we've already talked about, kind of. And on the radio show, we were talking about how humanity is stuck in this fear state, and they keep us that way on purpose. And I find that, and I try to tell people that as long as you're living in that state of fear and confusion because of all that they're throwing at us, with the media and everything, I mean, like everything that they're throwing at us, and I know, politics, religion, media, all of this stuff, and they're keeping you in that state of fear by the mind control is a good way to put it, that it kind of cuts off the creativity, right? Like, because you can't be in a state of creativity and uh, consciousness if you're in that state of fear. And I think that's what people have to start realizing, is that we have to get out of that state because they want us in that state for that very purpose, right? Because it's stopping the growth of us.
Yeah, have you ever rented a car that had a governor in it? In other
Yes.
words, it'll only go so fast.
Yep.
Like there's something holding the pedal at a certain point, right? It's
Yep.
called a governor, right? It's like the car is capable of going 110 miles an hour, but they put a little device on it to make it to where it'll only go up to 70 miles an hour. It'll only go up to 80 miles an hour, and it's called a governor. And I think that's kind of funny because we have the same thing in our political system, which is governors.
Yep.
And it's kind of the same thing. Their job is to inhibit growth, to inhibit our ability to get past a certain level. That's kind of what politics does. That's what having a central bank system does. That's what having a school indoctrination system. These are all processes to inhibit or retard our ability to elevate ourselves to the level where we can pick up, almost think of us like an antenna, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you just stick a rod in the ground, it's not going to necessarily pick up frequencies from, that are out there. But if you hook up a battery to it, and the right power source, all of a sudden you're starting to pick up stuff. So it's like, if we want to be an antenna that can, kind of tune in, we need that to be powered up, and there's
Right.
a lot of things in play that are keeping us powered down. And I think actually raining from the sky nanoparticles may well be one of those things that keeps us kind of not very healthy,
Yeah.
shooting things into people's bodies that are, heavy metals, for instance, are causing people to have all kinds of problems and not be able to remember things. There's various in our food, right? People are eating corn syrup all the time. That's kind of made to inhibit your body, like screw it up. It's like poison. They're belly bombs, in the food, right?
It's true.
Go to McDonald's and get yourself some stomach missiles. It's like really subtle ways of that we're under attack on a daily basis. How about all the 5G electromagnetic poisoning that people's bodies are facing? Most people don't really realize how much that's affecting us. All these
Right.
things are adding up, and there's certain families in the world that have been funding programs to make these things bigger and stronger. And then there's other people that are just duped into it because they think it's a good idea and they love technology and they want their phone to go faster. And then
Yep.
we all fall for it too because we want our little devices and we want instant access to our Domino's pizza or whatever.
Yep. And they are attacking on every front too. That's the most crazy part about what you're saying is that you're right. They are attacking on every front. Like I definitely with I always wonder what's going. I definitely looked into geoengineering too because when I sit out in I love sitting out in my backyard in the summer and I would watch the planes going over my head for hours. Like you said, you'd see them going, and then the line would like it shut off, and then you would see them go a little bit, and then it turned back on. And it was that's when I started really looking into that because I was like, what are they doing above our heads like this? And so I totally agree with what you're saying. They're definitely hitting us from the air, the water, like our food. It's amazing how they're
Hollywood, the
Hollywood.
psychological
Oh
attack,
yeah, for sure. Yep.
and now the medical system. It's one huge weapon.
God, yeah, Chris. I tell you, when I think about it, like what we're up against, it seems daunting at times. It really does because as we both know, governments never and organized religion that's not going to roll over and just say, okay, we're done. Like it doesn't happen that way. So it's educating people on the things that we're talking about that's going to make the difference. But it seems at times such a big, like they've just got it all figured out. It seems like
Yeah, but here's the thing. That's one thing I like about the book, The End of All Evil, because and by the way, if you want to check out The End of All Evil, it's a book you can't really buy. If you go on Amazon, it's like $1,000 or something.
really, wow,
It's ridiculous, but you can download it. It's I think there's a website called New Earth, and you can just type in "End Evil" the book, and there's like multiple free PDFs you can
okay,
download.
perfect,
And I have it linked on my site if you look around too. But he does give more of a hopeful view of it. When you stand back from a philosophy point of view, evil can't really win. It's destined to, evil's something that is is trying to destroy freedom, but it can't destroy freedom. Freedom is what reality is.
that's true, that's true,
Reality is really made up of the creative divine process, the process of freedom. It is freedom. That's what reality is.
right, yep,
And so you can't destroy reality with something that's trying to eat away at it of evil. It's something that's a human to human problem. We could destroy each other and everything else is going to still exist. The universe kind of in a way doesn't care. It,
it's
it's
true,
not like, oh, I mean, that's one way to look at it. I mean, it gets a little tricky how we look at things sometimes because people have their, like I said, context. But
right,
I guess what I was going to get at next was to give people some hope and to deal with that overwhelm. Like one thing that you can think about in our recent history of America is there was this whole story about the founding fathers that fought for freedom, right?
hmm
And at that time, the King of England claimed that all the territories, right, and said they were his and they belonged to England. And that was like the biggest army in the world, right? The
right,
biggest weaponized force in the world. Said they owned this area, and eventually these people said, "No, you don't own us," and they fought back. And the story is that they won. You know,
yep,
hiding in trees and running around with muzzle-loaded guns or whatever. Minimal forces. Toes getting frozen in the snow, or the stories we hear. But it seems like there's a pretty common story there that there was a small percentage of the population really that stood up and fought, and they managed to win against a much larger foe. And there's all stories through history of smaller forces eventually winning over what seems like a mightier foe. So take hope in history, all of history. And the fact that freedom is what we come from. It's the very fabric that we're born from.
Right.
We can't lose if you look at it from that point of view.
No, that's a good point. That's a good point. I'm just being honest. Sometimes it does get really frustrating when you try to talk to people and you see where they're at, and it does seem it does. I'm sure everybody goes through that where they get kind of frustrated when you're trying to teach people and talk to people, and you see where they're at. And like I was telling you before, like when we were talking, that what gave me the kick in the ass was when I saw with COVID, and I saw how quickly the brainwashing kicked in on people, and they just bought everything that they was being told, and they shut the whole world down. I would have never believed they could do that. And so that's why sometimes when I get a little discouraged, because I just see how quickly that happened, and how people are still, like even in my area, they're still fighting for mask mandates. They dropped the mask mandates a while back, and there is people that are actually trying to get them brought back. And so when I see stuff like that, it just gets very discouraging at times. But I'm still going to keep going. I mean, I'm not going to ever give up. But I'm just being honest. It does feel a little, like it gets a little intimidating at once in a while. Like it just when you see what's going on. So
Yeah, I think it helps too to kind of think big picture a little bit. What
for
I'm trying to
sure,
do is zoom out and realize that, some of the words I read, I like to talk about the words of Thomas Paine. He lived a
right,
long time ago. People in his time didn't like him or accept him very well. Some did, quite a few did. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the semblance of freedom that we have now.
right,
But, it takes 100 years or 200 years sometimes before certain wisdom is realized. I think of the early abolitionists, of slavery, and that was going on in the South, that specific physical slavery that was going on at that time. They were able, the abolitionists were able to make a point finally, and people were able to hear them. There were a lot of debates that went on. So, like I think of myself as a modern day abolitionist.
yep,
We still need to form a group of abolitionists that understand that philosophy and freedom are key, fundamental truth
yep,
aspects that we need to deal with before we worry about other problems. And when we get that focus on that, and people really recognize it's really the extent of the problem that people are struggling with. Like what you're saying is you're asking someone to really swallow a bitter pill that's like,
oh yeah,
oh, everything's against you, religion, the government, the Hollywood, it's all connected. It's too much. I can't take it all. It's
yep,
like you're asking someone to swallow a heavy pill, man. It's a lot to ask of people, and I recognize that's not an easy thing. And you
right.
can't sugarcoat it because it's like, well, I'm just trying to say this is the reality we're living in, and we got to deal with it.
Yep.
It's
And that
tricky.
yeah, it is tricky, and I'm starting to learn too that I had to kind of step back and realize that all the information that I've gathered, I didn't get it all in like one show or one podcast, or it took years to accumulate all this. So I have to kind of not lose too much hope with talking to people, because they're not going to, like you said, it's a lot to take in at once. And so I mean, you got to kind of let people like I always say, you got to climatize to it, kind of thing, as you're giving them this information. Because I had to step back and remember that, and I'm probably the same with you, because I'm still learning every day, and so it's something I've been learning over years. It wasn't something I just learned all at once. So I have to kind of remember that too when I'm talking to people, that it takes time to get talking to people and get them to understand these things. And we got to kind of keep I have to keep that into perspective, because I just kind of want to go at them and go give it to them all at once, like you said, and it is so overwhelming. I get that. You got to kind of bring it back a little.
Yeah, and it's a process, and learning how to say it in a way that works. I think, like I said, Larkin Rose is a good one to listen to
Right.
because he's very eloquent about the way he says things in a very common sense way, and he has good stories.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we have to keep listening to different people and trying to say it in different ways and having these conversations. And if you think about it, like in a way, we're writing books. They
That's
didn't
true.
have Skype and Zoom back in the days of Thomas Jefferson and George Washington. They were with a quill, and some ink. But this is the modern day, quill and ink. This is what we're doing. We're writing books.
Yep.
And back up all your work. Save every video you make. It might be 3 generations before it really sinks in what you were talking about today.
That's true. Yep.
It
That's
doesn't mean
true.
it's not worthwhile just because no one's listening at this moment. That's what I have to remind myself, because sometimes there is nobody listening to my show.
Yep.
I mean, it's getting to where I get a little more viewership, but at one time started, Nobody was listening, you know?
Yeah, no, that's true. And you never know who's gonna hear it down the road. That's what I always say. I'm kind of like sowing seeds, right? You don't know who's gonna hear it, or if they even do hear it, they may not agree with exactly you're saying at the time, but you're still putting that seed in their mind. And who knows when it'll sprout? It could be a year, it could be 5 years, it could be a day, but at least we're out there doing that, and that's probably a good part where to kind of wrap it up, Chris. Do you think that people like I the biggest thing for me getting involved in doing this work was the technology part of it. For me, for sure, was that I didn't understand technology and I didn't have a computer that was worth anything. um, so I just find that that's probably what's holding people, a lot of people, back. And I just want, like, can you let people know how important it is that they start learning about technology, even slowly, like I'm doing, and then trying to get, we need more people getting the word out there. And I like the way that you said earlier that, that's how you're going to reach the people, right? It's just through technology. That's the way the world is now. So how important do you think that is, that people start to learn technology and to start doing this information and doing this work?
Yeah, I mean, I sure had a lot of resistance.
Me too.
I'm very much an outdoor. I wanted to be more of an outdoors people than I am a person than I am.
Mm-hmm.
I love nature. I like working with my hands. I'd rather be gardening and doing physical things. Um, but the truth is, this is where things are going. This is where most people are. The Matrix movie is no joke.
Yep.
It's really happening around us. And so, um, really a big part of the message is this isn't just about what's best for me. Because if it was, I would be out there working on, building a giant garden right now, or, out on some land,
Just
and I hope to
living
get
life.
there. But, this is important. This work needs to be done because we can't just abandon our fellow humans and
Exactly.
pretend like they're not being led off a cliff right now. So I guess I would say when it comes to technology, it's crucial at this moment if you care, and if you're developing a conscience and you're developing the understanding that you have a responsibility, if you have the ability to respond, then, you know, it's your responsibility. So
Right.
it is your responsibility to learn how to use the modern weapons. And these are what the modern weapons are, is these tools of the internet, how to get yourself out there, how to get your voice heard, how to reply to someone when they've spoken to you. It's like whenever there's a new type of technology, it's our same thing with weapons, right? Like we want to understand how to use weapons because that technology could well be used against us. And if
Right.
we don't know how to use it, so I would just say, like, don't try to take it all at once. It's hella frustrating,
For
from
sure.
someone who's going through it and been through it. You got to be patient. It takes time. You got to do it one day at a time. You can't all of a sudden, know all this stuff. It's like the same thing's true of philosophy and the same thing's true of exercise.
Yep.
The way I recommend to go about it is start very small. Just do one little thing. Start doing that. Get used to doing that every week or 2 weeks, and then start picking up the next thing, and go right up to the point where you get stuck, and then you ask questions. Knock and the door will be opened. There's
Yep.
YouTubers answering every question out there, or someone on Odyssey, or you can take how to become the true media course. I think that's open on
Yes, it
whatonearthishappening.com.
is. Yep. Yep.
Fairly inexpensive for what you get out of it. I mean, it's amazing. But there's other courses out there. There's other people that are willing to teach you, whatever it is you want to learn. Photoshop, type in the internet, how to learn Photoshop,
Yep. Yep.
whatever it is, you get to the point where you're up against something that you can't figure out how to do. You take a deep breath, walk away for 15 minutes, come by and start looking for help. You'll find the answers.
Oh, for
And,
sure.
reach out to Rick, reach out to me. There's a lot of people out there like us that are podcasting and speaking out that are really happy to give other people advice.
Yep.
And do your first interview with me and I'll show you the ropes, show you what I do.
Yep. Yeah, exactly, and then it's true about learning. I'm learning because I want to start doing presentations like you guys do, and I have no idea how to do them. I love how you guys do them, so I'm learning PowerPoint as I was telling you before, and I'm learning it from scratch. I got the program, and I'm just learning a little bit every day. I just keep messing with it, making a lot of mistakes, but I'm getting there. I mean, I'm learning a little bit more every day, and I certainly know a lot more now than I did 3 weeks ago when I got the program. When I think about where I am now, it's like, wow, I've come a long way. And I've
Right.
come a long way to not having a computer. I didn't know. And then when I remember, I said, I kept telling people I want to do interviews. I love interviewing people, I love talking to people. And I think it comes from tattooing and sitting with clients all day, tattooing them. I just like chatting with people, and I wanted to start talking about the great work and stuff like that. But I didn't. Then somebody's like, "Well, you have to learn OBS," and I'm like, "Well, what's OBS?" I had no idea what OBS was, not a clue. So I had to learn that. I learned that trial and error. So it can be done. You just have to be willing to go at it. I had to go at it slow and learn a little bit every day, and then not give up on it. And I think that that's what people have to realize is that if I can learn it, anybody can. That's for sure, because I am not gifted in computers, and I would never say I was.
Yeah, but you're doing a fantastic job, and it's
Thank
amazing
you.
how quickly you've learned it. If other people don't pick it up as quick as you, don't get discouraged.
Yeah.
Like keep that point of view that Rick's pointing out, where you're looking at what you're doing and how amazing it is what you did learn,
Oh
rather
yeah.
than looking at it from the other point of view of, oh, I'll never get it. That's not
Yep.
going to help.
Yep.
You just got to be patient with yourself. You got to know
Exactly.
yourself, know what you can do, and do that.
Yep.
But if you don't do that, you also know deep down that you could be doing it. You could be
That's
doing more
true.
than what you're doing,
Yep. Yep, and that's why I love Mark, because I like Mark, and I know some people don't like Mark Passio's style. They think he's very aggressive and mean. I've heard people say that. I've asked people to listen to his show and stuff like that, and watch some of his presentations, and a lot of them are like, he's really angry and stuff like that. But I needed that a few months ago to hear Mark say that. Like, what are you doing to help get the word of natural law? What are you doing to make a difference? And I had to sit back and ask myself that, like, what, why am I not doing anything? And then I found out I had a lot of excuses, is what I was telling myself. I didn't know how to do technology, I didn't have the equipment, blah blah, all the excuses that people tell themselves. But so I did need that kick in the ass from somebody saying it very bluntly, and that's what got me going. But as you were saying earlier, there is a lot of other people out there teaching in different styles. So don't just lock on to one person. Kind of look. I love looking out at all the people like yourself and Will and Leslie, everybody out there that's teaching in different ways. It's really great to see. It is.
Yeah.
You
It's
know,
good stuff.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing stuff. So I'm just checking the time here because I did tell you I'm going to try to keep these a little shorter than I normally do. I usually have like 3 hour interviews, so I'm trying to keep them down a little bit more bite size here. So I think I'm doing good so far today. And but to wrap it up, Chris, just let everybody know about where they can find your information. The floor is yours, man. Let people know where they can find you, and I'll make sure I provide links for everything that you suggest.
Thanks, Rick. Yeah, I think we covered a lot of ground today. We
I
did
did
good.
too. Yes.
Yeah, but there's a lot more. I always try to recommend people my website endevil.life. There's I made a presentation series, and so that's a good place to start. It's like part 1 through 6, and it's kind
Mm-hmm.
of like me trying to put everything together for you in the most you know simple, progressive way I could. But so yeah, endevil.life's all my work's at. I'm on the onegreatworknetwork.com. And check out freedomundernaturallaw.com. And that's where I got together with the rest of my friends at the Natural Freedom Alliance, and we're starting to work on putting together the Freedom Under Natural Law Conference #2 for this fall, and it's gonna be more exciting than the last one, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, that'll be amazing. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the presentations for sure. They were amazing on the last one, the first one that you guys did. I learned so much, and I've met so many great people, and I'm learning so much. And so I really appreciate what you're doing, Chris, for trying to help people and get people to start looking into these things. And it is daunting at times. It really is. So I think that's so cool that you're doing it. And check out your YouTube channel too, because I mean you got great stuff on there. I'm sure you can find that's on your website and stuff, all those interviews and that. But I have watched a lot of your stuff on your YouTube channel too. So I'll make sure there's a link down in the description for that too, because I think
Thanks, Rick.
yeah, and I just want to thank you, Chris. You're always welcome to come back. And I think we just, we covered a lot today, but I think we scratched the surface, and we can definitely go deeper on a lot of these topics. So you're always welcome to come back and have a discussion and talk about whatever you would like.
Right on, brother. Yeah, we're forming our community and network of friends, and preparing for the future, getting the good information out there. So we're friends now. Once
For
you're my
sure.
friend, you always are. So
For
thanks,
sure. You're very
appreciate
well.
it.
Oh, yeah, and you're doing a great job, Chris. So
You
take
too,
care.
brother.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm trying. I'm trying. So, and but yeah, you're welcome back anytime. And just make sure you take care of yourself. And I will keep in touch with you. Yeah, I will. I chat with you all the time. So It's
Sounds like a
great.
plan.
Yeah, sounds like a plan. So we did good, Chris. We kept her
Yeah.
under. I think I'm trying to check the time. I didn't even see when we started, but oh yeah, we're
No,
doing good.
it's like perfect.
It's
Yeah.
perfect. We rocked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's great. I'm glad that we. I was trying to keep very conscious of that because, as I was saying to you earlier, I usually go on for like 2 hours, and I've had a couple of people say that's a lot to ask for 2 hours. So I'm gonna try to shorter it down, but I just have you back more often, and we can cover more topics. I
Cool.
mean,
Yeah. Yeah. Try to keep it a little more bite sized,
yeah,
right?
yep, that's what I'm gonna do. So, like I said, I'll leave links to all your channels that we were discussing, Chris, for you in the description, so people can check it out. And I'm looking forward to seeing some more of your videos and presentations. And keep up the great work, my friend.
Yeah. Let me know when you get your first presentation done, and
Oh yeah.
I can't wait to see it. If you get stuck, let me know. I'll try to help you out whatever way I can.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'll definitely give you. I'll have you probably look at it before I ever post it because I want to get your impression on it. It's
Right
it's
on, man. Thanks.
but I'm starting. You got to start somewhere. We were just saying that, right? So it's
Yeah.
coming
Yeah.
along. It's coming along.
Cool, man. Great work.
All
Great
right.
work. So proud of you.
Thank
All
you
right,
so
man.
much. Take care, my friend, and I'll keep in
All right.
touch.
We'll be in touch.
All
Sounds
right.
good. Thanks, Rick.
Okay.
Later on.
Take care. Well, there we go. Learning all about evil. I mean, what an amazing discussion. And I tell you, I really enjoy speaking with Chris. I do. We have a lot. We have so much in common. I remember when I first started talking to him after watching his presentation, and I saw the interview that he did with Leslie Powers, as we were talking about on the fish tank theory, and that was the interview that I saw. Like I think the first thing I saw with him, and talking about that with her, and found it just fascinating. And then I started talking to him, like just on Skype and stuff like that, and we had so much in common. Like it was really cool, like the way that we just kind of our stories kind of are like very similar in a lot of ways. So I really do enjoy speaking with Chris and all the other amazing people I've met. I met so many amazing people that are doing the great work, and you just learn so much. And I like I said, I watch presentations constantly. I'm always watching a presentation by somebody or listening to a podcast. It seems when I'm not like taking a little bit of time to myself and listening to music, which I always tell people I need my music. That's kind of like my center, and I can't be doing that research 24/7 or whatever. I just my brain cannot absorb that much and retain it. So I got to kind of do it in little bits and then have music, as my thing to do in my artwork and stuff like that. But when I am on social media, I'm always watching some type of presentation or, as I said, listening to a podcast. And it's amazing. It's amazing the information that's out there if people are just willing to take the time to look into it and start having an open mind and be willing to look at different information and different creators, content creators. Because, like I said, some people, you know, don't like the way some people teach, and then you find somebody that's, that you relate more to stuff. So that's why we need more teachers out there teaching natural law and objective morality and the stuff that's occulted. And so we definitely got to get people out learning the technology part of it. That was, as I've always told people, was my biggest thing. I'm kind of like Chris. I was always somebody that liked to be outdoors and doing artwork and stuff like that. So I wasn't really a computer person. Definitely not a gamer. And I've played games over the years a little bit here and there, but not really. I would never consider myself a gamer or anything. Far from that. And so the technology was definitely the hardest part for me to grasp, but I'm still learning. As I was saying during the interview, I'm still trial and error so far. I'm learning everything just by doing it and messing up and then trying it again until I get it. And I think people just have to, if you want to start doing it, it's not enough to take in the information. You once you take it in and understand it, then you have to start putting it back out there. And as I was saying during the interview, and I've said before, it was that kick in the ass I needed from Mark Passio when he was talking about it and was getting upset that there's not enough people out there doing the great work. There's a lot of people taking it in, but there's not a lot of people actually putting it back out and having discussions about it and trying to educate people about it. So I needed that kick in the ass to get me to where I am now. So I just think that people just need to start. That's the best advice I can give. Just start. That's what I did. I just started getting the things I needed and learning a little bit every day, and that was what I said to myself when I started this whole process. If I can learn one little new thing every day, it's going to build every day. So every day, if I just learn something new about a program or anything like information wise, then I'm always learning and I'm always going up, and it does add up, and it really does. I mean, that's what I was saying to Chris when I look back to where I was 3 weeks ago with my PowerPoint. It's incredible what I can do now compared to 3 weeks ago. So I think people just have to, stop making excuses and start doing it and learning it. So that's all I got to say about that. That's just telling you guys what how I went about it, and hopefully you guys will maybe consider start going out and putting your voice out there too and doing the great work. And I just want to thank Chris once again for taking the time to come and chat with us. I really enjoy our conversations, as I was saying, and I hope to have him back on here doing a video interview, and definitely back on the my radio show, which you can find at freedomslips.com. That's Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I'm on every Monday evening, 6 p.m. till 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that's in Studio A. And then I do have a 1-hour show that I do on Saturdays, which I'm going to be doing very shortly because today is Saturday that I'm filming this. And that show I do from 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. And that's in Studio B, and that's also Eastern Standard Time. So you can catch me at Revolution Radio on those 2 days of the week. And I hope to see you guys there. Lots of great hosts there too. A lot of great topics being covered. And so definitely check it out, guys. Freedomslips.com. I'll also leave a description or a link to that in the description box, so you guys can check it out if you like radio and just like listening. Like I love old school radio, so definitely check it out. Lots of great hosts. There are a lot of great hosts there, great topics being covered about so many things, pretty much 24/7. So it's a great thing. So hope to see you guys actually check it out. I think that'd be really show the support, try to keep freedom going, freedom alive, and freedom of speech alive, because they're censoring. Everybody knows that. That's putting information out there. They are really starting to crack down on the censoring and that. So anywhere you can go where they're not doing that is somewhere you want to support, in my opinion. So, but I'm going to wrap this one up. I just want to thank you guys for all taking the time to come and listen to Chris and I today. And definitely please check out his website, check out his YouTube channel. Great interviews on there, lots of great information, and you're going to learn so much. So please check it out. You won't regret it. And take care, guys, and I hope to see you soon, and stay safe. Peace, guys.
Are you interested in the paranormal, murder mysteries, cryptocurrency, and thought-provoking interviews? Then check out Crypt Rick's I've Been Thinking on YouTube, or every Monday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Studio A at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. Welcome to the Crypt.